In 1992, a video game changed everything. Not just fighting games, not just arcades, everything. It helped create an entirely new government rating system. It had senators literally rolling a television into congressional chambers to show digitized pixelated violence. It made parents across America clutch their pearls so hard they needed hand surgery. And then, 4 years later, someone looked at all of that and said, "You know what? Let's make this into a fun cartoon for children."
Much has changed since the last Mortal Kombat tournament.
Yes, Mortal Kombat, the franchise built on spine-ripping, heart-punching, decapitation-celebrating chaos, became a kids' show, and almost nobody remembers it exists. This is the story of Mortal Kombat, Defenders of the Realm, one of the most bizarre sanitization experiments in entertainment history. How did we get here? Let's find out. To understand how wild this cartoon was, you need to understand what Mortal Kombat actually was when it launched. In 1992, two developers at Midway Games, Ed Boon and John Tobias, released something the gaming world had never seen before. While Street Fighter II dominated arcades with its cartoonish fighters, Boon and Tobias went a completely different direction. They used digitized sprites, real actors photographed and converted into game characters, creating a fighting game that looked shockingly realistic for its time. But it wasn't just the graphics, it was the violence. Mortal Kombat introduced fatalities, finishing moves that let you literally rip your opponent's spine out, burn them alive, or punch their head clean off their shoulders. Blood sprayed across the screen, screams echoed through arcades, and kids absolutely loved it. The game exploded, and so did the controversy. By December 1993, Democratic Senator Joe Lieberman, alongside Senator Herb Kohl, had organized congressional hearings specifically about video game violence. And guess which game was Exhibit A? They wheeled a television right into the Senate chambers and showed footage of Sub-Zero's spine rip fatality to a room full of horrified politicians. The industry panicked. Within months, the Interactive Digital Software Association formed and created the Entertainment Software Rating Board, the ESRB, which officially launched in September 1994. The M for mature rating you see on games today, that exists in large part because of Mortal Kombat. Meanwhile, Midway kept pushing. Mortal Kombat 2 arrived in 1993, even bloodier than the first. Then, Mortal Kombat 3 dropped in April 1995, followed by Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 in November of that same year, a game that Ed Boon himself has called his favorite 2D Mortal Kombat title. The franchise was unstoppable, raking in quarters at arcades and dominating console sales. This was a property built on controversy, on pushing limits, on being the thing parents didn't want their kids playing. So naturally, someone decided to make it for kids. Before we get to the cartoon, we need to talk about the movie because that's where the sanitization really started. In August 1995, New Line Cinema released Mortal Kombat, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. The film was a gamble. Video game movies had been notorious disasters. Super Mario Bros. Flopped. Street Fighter was a mess. But Mortal Kombat? It actually worked. Made on a budget of around $18 to $20 million, the film grossed $122 million worldwide. It was #1 at the box office for 3 consecutive weeks. Critics were mixed, but audiences, especially teenagers, ate it up. The techno soundtrack became iconic. Mortal Kombat became a cultural catchphrase. But here's the thing. To get that PG-13 rating and reach the widest possible audience, the movie had to tone things down significantly. No spine rips, no decapitations. The violence was there, but sanitized enough for mass consumption. And Hollywood took notice. If Mortal Kombat could work as a PG-13 movie, maybe it could work as a Saturday morning cartoon. The merchandising machine was already spinning up. Action figures, toys, apparel. Threshold Entertainment, the production company behind the movie, saw the potential. They wanted to expand the brand, and in the mid-90s, that meant one thing: animation. Mortal Kombat, Defenders of the Realm premiered on September 21, 1996 on USA Network's Action Extreme Team programming block, airing back-to-back with the Street Fighter animated series because apparently Irony was having a very good year. Produced by Threshold Entertainment and Film Roman, the show ran for exactly one season, 13 episodes from September to December 1996. That's it, 13 episodes of Mortal Kombat. For children, the premise? Following the events of the first movie, Raiden assembles Earth's greatest warriors to defend the realm against interdimensional invaders. The team included Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Jax, Sub-Zero, Kitana, Curtis Stryker, and Nightwolf. They operated out of a secret base, flew around in dragon-shaped jets, and fought evil while learning valuable life lessons. Yes, dragon-shaped jets. Life lessons. This was Mortal Kombat now. The show was rated TVY7, meaning it was deemed appropriate for children 7 and older. The same franchise that had senators warning about the corruption of youth was now competing for airtime with Power Rangers. So how do you make a kids show out of Mortal Kombat? You strip out literally everything that made it Mortal Kombat. No blood, none. Characters would fight, get knocked around, and walk away completely unscathed. The brutal combat that defined the games was replaced with generic cartoon action, laser blasts, energy waves, characters getting thrown but never actually hurt. No fatalities. The entire point of Mortal Kombat, those iconic finishing moves, simply didn't exist. Finish him was replaced with nothing. Fights just ended. Bad guys retreated. Everyone went home fine. The character designs were based on Mortal Kombat 3 and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, but the personalities were completely rewritten. Raiden, the Thunder God known for his cryptic wisdom and occasional brutality, became a dad joke machine spouting one-liners. Sonya Blade's battle cry was "Combat Time," which sounds like something from a cereal commercial. Liu Kang, the franchise's main protagonist and martial arts champion, barely did any martial arts. Sub-Zero was transformed from a morally complex assassin into a generic good guy seeking redemption for his brother's actions. And Scorpion, arguably the most iconic character in the entire franchise, appeared in exactly one episode before vanishing completely. Even the villains were neutered. Shao Kahn, the terrifying conqueror of realms, only showed up in 4 of the 13 episodes. The cybernetic ninja warriors, Cyrax and Sector, led armies of robots that, when destroyed, sparked with electricity rather than bled, a choice clearly made to avoid any suggestion of violence. The show even tacked on public service announcements at the end of episodes. Life lessons from Mortal Kombat, because apparently that's what audiences wanted from the franchise that invented the spine rip. Here's the thing though, despite everything, some people actually remember this show fondly. You know when you're channel surfing on a Saturday morning, half awake with a bowl of cereal, and something catches your eye that you probably shouldn't be watching? That was Defenders of the Realm for a lot of kids.
Sonya Blade.
If you grew up in the mid-90s with unregulated television access, there's a decent chance you caught this show between commercials. Maybe you didn't fully understand the cognitive dissonance of watching a sanitized Mortal Kombat. You just knew it had cool characters and ninja fights. The voice cast actually had some legitimate talent. Clancy Brown. Yes, the Clancy Brown. Mr. Krabs himself. The Kurgan from Highlander. Voiced Raiden. Ron Perlman, who would later become Hellboy. Voiced Stryker. These weren't amateur hour voice actors. And here's something genuinely interesting. Defenders of the Realm actually introduced Quan Chi to the Mortal Kombat universe. That sorcerer who became a major villain in Mortal Kombat 4 and Deadly Alliance? He first appeared in this cartoon. So while the show itself was largely forgotten, it did contribute something lasting to the franchise. If you had the VHS tapes, if you caught it on Saturday mornings, if you had the action figures, this is your moment. Drop a comment. Share your trauma. You're not alone. Defenders of the Realm lasted one season for a reason. Actually, multiple reasons. First, the fundamental tonal mismatch. Kids who wanted Mortal Kombat wanted the real thing, the blood, the fatalities, the edge. This watered-down version couldn't compete with actually playing the games, and kids who weren't into Mortal Kombat weren't suddenly going to start because of a generic superhero team cartoon.
From other domains as well. Only the most extraordinary warriors could possibly meet.
Second, the competition. The mid-90s was peak Saturday morning cartoon era. Batman. The animated series had set a new standard for quality. X-Men was dominating. Spider-Man was swinging into living rooms. Against that lineup, a hastily produced video game adaptation didn't stand a chance. Third, the reviews were brutal. Critics savaged the show. OneUP.com later called it a terrible one-liner-packed train wreck of a kids' show. Games Radar listed it among the worst video game-based animated series ever made. Gamefront simply called it an abomination. The ratings collapsed almost immediately. USA Network didn't bother renewing it. 13 episodes and done. Here's what's truly strange about Defenders of the Realm. It's almost completely absent from official Mortal Kombat retrospectives. The games get commemorated. The movies get discussed. Even Mortal Kombat Conquest, the live-action TV series that ran from 1998 to 1999, gets occasional mentions. But Defenders of the Realm? It's like the franchise collectively agreed to pretend it never happened, which is ironic because Mortal Kombat has only gotten more violent since 1996. The recent games feature X-ray moves showing bones shattering in real time. Fatalities now involve intestines, eyeballs, and anatomically detailed destruction. The series has fully embraced its identity as the most brutal fighting game franchise in existence. Meanwhile, somewhere in the archives, there's a cartoon where Sub-Zero learned the importance of teamwork and Raiden made puns. But here's the craziest part. Mortal Kombat wasn't alone. The late 80s and 90s were filled with ultra-violent properties being transformed into children's entertainment. RoboCop, the 1987 film that was so violent, it received an X rating 11 times before the MPAA accepted an R-rated cut, became a 1988 animated series where lasers replaced bullets and nobody actually died. Rambo, the traumatized Vietnam veteran who represented the horrors of war, got his own cartoon called Rambo, the Force of Freedom, where he fought generic terrorists with a team of commandos. Toxic Crusaders turned the ultra-gory trauma film, The Toxic Avenger, into an environmental superhero show for kids. And the Street Fighter cartoon that aired right alongside Defenders of the Realm? That's a whole separate disaster worth exploring. The 1990s were wild. Executives genuinely believed any property could be merchandised to children if you just removed enough blood. Mortal Kombat. Defenders of the Realm stands as a monument to that bizarre era. A reminder that once upon a time, someone genuinely thought, finish him could become, let's learn together. What a joke this was. If you watched this as a kid, if you remember the Dragon Jets, if you suffered through Raiden's one-liners, drop a comment below. And subscribe, because next time we're diving into another violent franchise game turned cartoon.